Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here. I'm alongside Christian Mosqueda, and we're back for another episode. Big week, probably the biggest week in boxing, the face of boxing, of course. Saul Canelo Alvarez against Terrence Crawford. We got to get into it. Big, I wouldn't say the biggest undercard, but there are some interesting names there, some interesting fights on the undercard, and we got to get to it all, that undercard and that main event. So welcome back to the show.
Yeah, like you said, Gio, it's the face of boxing. You know, face of boxing has two big dates. This is the second date in the calendar year. People have been waiting for this one. I know it's divided a lot of the fan base. You know, a lot of people calling it a circus. A lot of people calling it, you know, somebody chasing greatness. A lot of people saying, you know, the face of boxing has everything to lose. But it's here, man. Canelo versus Crawford. Let me ask you, Gio, how excited are you? I know that you're one of the biggest critics, you know, when it comes to Terrence Crawford. Where are you at with this fight? How excited are you? 1 to 10.
Probably like a 6. But like I said, Chris, let's go ahead and get into that undercard. Let's not waste any time. We're not going to have much time tonight. So you see it there on your screen. Surya Boachuk against Brandon Adams. The rematch. Brandon Adams stopped him in the first match. Brutal knockout. That was a few years ago. We'll get into that one. Christian and Billy against Lester Martinez, both undefeated. Those two really are the interesting bouts in this one. Both guys, you know, in the case of Christian and Billy, you know, if he gets a W, very interesting that they're putting him on a Canelo undercard. And of course, Boachuk and Adams in one of the hottest divisions in boxing. 154. So those two are very meaningful fights. They threw in Callum Walsh against Fernando Vargas Jr. in that one too. That one should bring some excitement to the table as well. And you see all the names there. We know typically the Canelo cards, undercards aren't always stacked. The guy's going to make $150 million in this fight. So, you know, you got to distribute that money as best as you can, you know, at least the rest of it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, Chris. You want to start with that undercard?
Yeah. No, again, you mentioned, Gio, obviously the big names is Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, but you got to put a little respect on these guys. That again, these guys are chasing to be in that place one day, and they have to have these kinds of fights, man. Let's start with Surya Boachuk versus Brandon Adams. That's a rematch. You know, again, Brandon Adams, the Cannon, friend of the podcast, you know, coming away with the upset in that fight. They're running it back, Gio. Give me your thoughts on that fight, and will the Cannon strike twice this time around?
Yeah, well, we spoke about it last week. We had Brandon Adams and Trevor Sombrano on the podcast. Shout out to them if they're watching. It's going to be a great fight, rematch. I'm rooting for Brandon Adams again. I'm not sure he could get the knockout, but I think he can definitely outbox Ray Bochuk, who, Bochuk, he has some decent momentum on his side. He lost obviously to Virgil Ortiz Jr., but many people thought he deserved more. Maybe a draw, maybe a win. Look at his record there, 26-2, 24 KOs. 30 years old, Sergey Bochuk. You would think he's in his prime, and you got to rewind all the way back to keep going. Right here, 2021, when he lost against Brandon Adams. That was around the COVID era, that time frame where there weren't many people in the stadiums, in the arenas. Brandon Adams talked about the challenges in that fight of fighting on a slippery ring because they had to spray the ring with all the disinfectants after each round because of COVID. So I think this is supposed to be a better fight. I think the second one, and yeah, I think Brandon Adams can make it happen.
Yeah, of course. Just like you do have a bias for going for Brandon Cannon Adams. I do feel like he does have a much more dangerous Bochuk. Sure, Bochuk has lost, fights since then, and it's gonna take a little bit out of you. But he's always also has that chip on his shoulder, and he's gonna want to, take that one back from Brandon Adams. But yeah, man, like you said, the ring is gonna be a factor. We'll see, how Brandon Adams can use that ring. Bochuk, of course, is a stronger man. That fight that he had with Virgil Ortiz, it showed us how strong those two kind of fighters are. So Brandon's gonna have to use his boxing ability, use that entire ring. I agree with you. I think he can, box. This reminds me of those kinds of rematches. The Canelo versus Triple G2, the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, where that second time around, maybe Brandon can take it to him a little bit more as opposed to being on the back foot. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a great fight. I feel like it's going to be very close. I think those corners are going to have to be working overtime. There's going to have to be plan B's, C's, and we'll see who wins. But again, it's going to be a very great fight. We have a little bias with the Cannon Adams, but we respect Bochuk as well. So we just hope to see a great fight, Gio.
Prediction, Chris. I just gave mine. Give yours real quickly. Quickly, 10, 9.
Split decision, Brandon Adams.
All right, cool. There we have it. Split decision, Brandon Adams. I'm going Adams 2 by decision. Christian and Billy against Lester Martinez. Another battle of, like I said, some of the top guys in their divisions. Christian and Billy 29-0. Lester Martinez 19-0. Chris, give us your prediction.
I'm gonna say in Billy with the experience factor. I say in Billy by decision.
Same here. And yeah, as I said, look, not much on that undercard. Do we even want to predict Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr.?
I think it's interesting. What top 40 fighters, name fighters, one with the UK fan base, one with the name from his father. So let's go for it, Gio. Who do you think is going to win this one?
Yeah, I think Walsh wins. I'm going to say decision. Walsh 14-0, Fernando Vargas 17-0. You see the rankings there. Fernando Vargas, this is 40. I don't know how he's that high, but he seems hungry. 17-0, 15 KOs. He's 28 years old, but let's not kid ourselves. He's been fighting in a lot of local shows here. We've commentated some of his fights here locally in the LA area, so he doesn't really have that experience. Not like Walsh is one of the top guys either. You see it there, 14-0, 11 KOs from Ireland, Walsh. But this should be an interesting fight. Like I said, I think Walsh wins, but we'll see. Fernando Vargas really seems junior. He seems determined. He wants to get rid of that stigma of juniors, and this is his big challenge. Let's see if he can pass it. I don't think he does, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna say Callum Walsh by decision. Again, this is Fernando Vargas' chance to, kind of erase some of those naysayers that say that he's just not good enough, that he's the third Vargas with the most talent. So he can break into that top 20 if he can win this fight. Again, we know that the UK fighters, they have some trouble when they cross over, so maybe he can capitalize on that. I agree with you. I don't think he does it. So I'm gonna say Callum Walsh by decision, but respect to Fernando, he pulled off the upset.
It's going to be a fire fight, though, says Kyle. I believe he's referring to this fight. Yeah, I think both guys are going to go out there and fight. They're going to give it their all. This is their big chance. Like I said, Canelo cards aren't usually stacked like that, so a lot of these guys will get the chance on there to shine. We've seen guys like Jesus Ramos before on the Canelo undercards. As I said, I'm surprised Christian and Billy is on this undercard. Kind of surprised too that they would throw Boachuk and Adams on this card as well, and it seems like it's on one of the prelim fights too. I think you could watch that one free on YouTube before the actual event begins on Netflix. But yeah, I think that should be a good fight. It's a long card. Marco Verde is on there as well. Silver Olympian for Mexico a couple years ago. He's 2-0 now, 1 KO. He's part of the Canelo team. So once again, he's on the undercard of Canelo. And yeah, you see all the fights there. They're gonna start early. Vegas, the Raiders Stadium is gonna be jam packed, I'm sure. Saturday, September 13th, Mexican Independence weekend. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the main card because I'm sure we have a lot to say about this bout. It seemed like a fantasy fight at first, but hey, Turkey Al-Sheikh and that money can make fantasies into reality. So he wanted this fight. Terence Crawford is his favorite fighter, and that's why you see in a lot of the build-up they're throwing a lot of Terence Crawford on our faces. But yeah, we'll see Saturday night if Turkey was right or if he was wrong putting his boy in there against Canelo. You see it there, the Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play in Las Vegas this Saturday, September 13th. Main event, usually it's later, maybe like 9 p.m. You know, this is West Coast time, so yeah, it should be exciting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there. You see the odds there on your screen. Canelo Alvarez, the latest odds here, minus 170 to minus 185, meaning if you put $170, you'll make 100. And then for Terence Crawford, he's the underdog, plus 130 to plus 145. We went over the purses in previous podcasts as well. Canelo Alvarez, 75% of that $200 million total. 150 million reportedly, and Terence Crawford 50. Obviously, Terence Crawford taking only 25%, but let's keep it real. Canelo's the money man. He brings in all the fans, so I think Crawford's going to consider himself lucky to get the biggest payday of his career. And at 37 years old, it's not a bad way to go out if he retires after this, man. A lot of money on the line, all the belts on the line. Should be an exciting event there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, let me just say, Gio, like, I'm not trying to pocket watch too much, but props to Canelo, props to Crawford. For them to clear 200 million, man, it's amazing. Of course, Canelo face of boxing clearing 150 million. T-Bud, who's never made any money really with Top Rank, clearing 50 million is insane. So props to those guys for getting their bags. But I gotta ask you, Gio, those odds, are you a little surprised that it's that low? I thought that the odds were going to be minus 300, minus 350 for Canelo, but it looks like Bud's confidence has been swaying the bookies. But what are your thoughts on those odds?
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to them. Like I said, it's Turkey's boy, so yeah, I would think the odds are close. A lot of people are saying a lot of things. We'll see. We'll see how big of an influence Turkey Al-Sheikh ultimately has. But let me tell you this: he definitely has a huge influence on the purses because Alexander Usyk just got paid over $100 million to fight against Dubois again. So, man, they're splashing the cash, and the latest two guys who are going to benefit from that Saudi money is Canelo and Crawford. Canelo, obviously, we know he's been making money for a long time. Crawford, he's made some money. I think a little overpaid with Top Rank, considering his opponents, but 50 million, he probably never dreamed of touching 50. So I'm sure he's going to be very happy with Canelo. Hey, he might hit Canelo with the arrow, before the fight. Arrow kind of knew. I think he knew going in. He was thanking Crawford, and he said, yeah, we're going to make history, and we're going to make a lot of money. We'll see if Crawford hits Canelo with one of those. But, yeah, let's go to our poll. Let's go to some comments real quick before we go to the poll. Canelo by KO says, Clyde, shout out to Clyde. Worse than he did Khan. Bud is a bum, he says. If it wasn't for Canelo, Bud would be fighting in the middle school gym. He says, "Yeah, let's not forget that last fight that Turkey tried to sell to us here in LA didn't do very well. That Crawford against Madrimov, and in my eyes, Crawford underperformed. I thought he lost to Madrimov, or at least a draw. I didn't see him winning that fight, but hey, it's Crawford, it's Turkey's guy. There's no way in hell that he was gonna lose in his first fight going up in weight against Madrimov, even though he struggled. But hey, they got him an even bigger payday. So hey, you can't hate on that. Let's see, Turkey Al Sheik. What am I looking at? Don't like Canelo. He didn't want to hold Turkey's hand, says Iceman.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's obvious that Canelo, I think once upon a time, right, him and Turkey didn't see eye to eye. On the podcast, we said it. It's a matter of time before they work together. Money talks, business talks, and look what happened. But Canelo doesn't change his feathers for anybody. It seems like he's appreciative of the business, but I don't think he likes Turkey all that much. I mean, he likes the money, he likes the green. We've seen that 24/7, man. 1.4 million on his hand, but I don't think he likes Turkey too much. He knows that Turkey, has an eye for Terrence, and like you said, Gio, those odds are for me a little too close, and that influence, whether it's Turkey or whether it's T-Bud's confidence, it's a little too close, for my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm glad the chat right now is talking about Adams and Bochik. They're asking what weight. It's supposed to be at 154. And yeah, Adams has been fighting. He fought at higher weights than that, but a lot of times undersized against Charlo, against guys like that. But Adams is a guy who's always in shape. He has no problem making 154. Just us kind of being around him for a while now. He honestly had to take those fights at 160 and even higher sometimes because he didn't have opportunities. After he knocked out Bochuk, he didn't fight for 3 years. He got kind of blackballed by his promoter. He couldn't get some of the big names, so he had to just take whatever was thrown at him. So I think at 54, he'll be very comfortable against Sergey Bochuk.
And Gio, let me just say, dude, I was ecstatic when I heard that he got this fight. Obviously, they knew way before us, way before the general public. But I mean, just to be, outside looking in and finally getting, that rematch. It's almost like that first fight that he won. Man, he, money in the bank, cashing out. But man, glad to see him getting in that mix. And again, you know, however he performs, if he performs well, even in defeat, there could be a rubber match, and there's more money. Again, I hated to see him outside of outside of his own division, not getting these fights, not getting bags, especially with, like we said earlier, Turkey throwing that money out. So, good for him, and we wish him the best. Again, 154 hot division. The Cannon's back into it. Not an easy test against Sergey Bochuk.
Let's keep it moving, Chris. Let's keep it moving. No ranting. All right. Vargas should not be the co-main, says Big Bro. Yeah, it's a little weird, but hey, I'm sure they're looking at ticket sales and hoping that him and his dad can entice more fans to make it out there. All right, let's see. Any other comments that I miss here? All right, let's go ahead and move on to that poll that I pulled up on the screens. 1.5K voters, 1,500 voters so far. Who will win on September 13th? This was posted 6 days ago, about a week ago. Canelo or Crawford. Canelo 71% of those nearly 2,000 votes, and Crawford 29%. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised it's a lot wider according to our audience, and you see some of the comments here too. Kind of all over the place for either guy, for Bud or for Canelo. Bud all day. Can't wait for him to shock all the doubters, says one member of the audience. Team Canelo. Canelo, one of my favorites in the GOAT, but I got Bud winning. Canelo by decision. Canelo all the way. You see some of the comments there. Bud by decision. So go ahead and vote if you haven't already. Drop your comment. But so far, 1,500 votes, 71% of our audience are saying that Canelo is going to win, and I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. I have it 65% to 35% in favor of Canelo, but obviously 71% the face of boxing, the heavier guy, the more experienced guy, the filler the better resume. So again, not shocked by that. Um, yeah, it's pretty spot on in my opinion, Gio.
Did you all hear about Bud's shoulder? Says Kyle. Yeah, I read it. I don't know what's true and what isn't nowadays, though. So I don't know.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. What's the shoulder? Is he got a bummy shoulder?
Something like that. But who cares? Everyone's injured. Everyone's injured at this stage, I feel like.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, all he has to do is show up round one and he's getting paid. So again, even the Pacquiao's had messed up shoulders when they faced the Floyd Mayweather. So no excuses. I mean, just make the best of it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and please don't forget this fight is going to be on Netflix. So if you're a subscriber, this is not pay-per-view. These men are getting paid $200 million combined, reportedly. But it's not pay-per-view. Turkey Al-Sheikh is splashing the cash. They're doing it in the Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. This is supposed to be huge. These guys are getting a lot of money, and you can watch it for free, quote unquote, right? If you have Netflix, you see it there, you see the trailer. You know, this will be, hopefully it works, Chris. That's all that I'm asking for. Hopefully we don't get any DAZN stuff. What was the fight that was buffering? I think the Paul and the Tyson fight that was buffering in and out. The signal was a little crazy. Hopefully they get it right, and hopefully it's a big event because, you know, like I said, this is Turkey's, you know, beloved, you know, event here. This is what he wanted. You know, Canelo years back, and even Crawford, it seemed like they weren't really interested. Crawford at one point was saying that the highest he can go was 154, and honestly, I believe him because we saw the fight with him and Madrimov at 154. He did not look good. He got tagged over and over again. I thought he lost, or at least it was a draw. And, you know, on the other hand, Canelo said, no, Crawford's too small. I wouldn't fight him. But hey, Turkey splashing the cash. And the fight is actually happening, Chris. Like, if you remember months ago, I didn't take this seriously. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought we were just trolling. I thought it was just a fantasy fight. But now it's reality. It's here. As I said, I'm maybe a 6 out of 10. And hopefully we just get a good fight. You know, I really hope so. I hope Crawford doesn't go out there and just do a Charlo. You know, these guys who go out there to survive. Hopefully actually goes out there and fight. But honestly, I don't think he will because I think that would be bad news for him. But yeah, let us know in the comments, who do you guys have? What do you think the outcome is going to be? I think for me, it's not very difficult. You know, I'm going Canelo decision. I think Crawford will try to survive once he gets hit for real. You know, everyone has a plan until they get punched by Canelo. You know, so yeah, I think he'll go into survival mode. He'll try to fight at times, but yeah, I think at this stage of Canelo's career, he'll be content to get that decision, get that 150 milli, get that win number. What is it, 64, I believe? Yep, win number 64 of his career. You see some of the names there that he fought. The last one, very boring. William School didn't want it. Berlanga dropped him, but looked like he took his foot off the gas pedal. Same with Munguia. Charlo went out there to survive. So, you know, we're hoping for a good fight, but I'm not sure that Crawford is that guy to do that. You know, he's undefeated, 37 years old, Bud Crawford. Obviously, that fight against Madrimov, if you look at his resume right there, wasn't impressive. The one against Arrow was impressive, but we saw the version of Arrow that he ultimately fought. And then you see some of the other names that are just, I don't want to say a waste of time because he got paid, but you see some of those guys who were ready to retire. He got dropped against the Mean Machine. So, yeah, I don't think Bud is the guy to bring that exciting fight to us against a bigger guy, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully he does.
Yeah, I disagree. I think it's going to be competitive. And I agree with a lot of the experts. I think it's going to go the distance. And I think Crawford just has a great enough IQ. I think it's a little bit higher than Canelo, even though Canelo is as great as he is. He's been outboxed by the B-Bulls, by the smaller Amir Khans. Of course, it's the speed from the smaller guys that gives him trouble. And I feel like Terrence is going to have that. We'll see how much he slows down because he did have to put on muscle. He had to put on weight, you know, just to be, you know, competitive with that weight advantage that Canelo has. I'm hoping we don't get a Charlo Gio. I agree. I hope we don't get something under 7 rounds. I hope we do get to see some sort of greatness. There's been a lot of comparisons, from this fight to some of those past fights, the Leonards against the Haglers, those guys that have moved up to chase greatness, the Robinsons against the Archie Moores. So I would like to think that Bud is as good as, his fans are saying. So again, we know it's a big weight jump. We know Canelo, whatever he hits, he cracks. We saw it with Charlo. We saw it with Berlanga, who was a big dude as well. So I'm hoping, Terrence Crawford is able to fill up a little bit, just enough, and able to move in and stay in the pocket. Again, I don't want to see a skull. I agree. I do not want to see anybody running. I don't want anybody, just shying away, coming here to collect the check. I want to see some competitiveness. So I'm hoping, that all the fans that Bud has in his corner, that they're somewhat right. But it's going to be very hard. Again, Canelo, that guy's a bull, man. And there's a reason why he cleared out the entire 168 division.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think I still think this fight is kind of silly, but yeah, we'll see on fight night. Let's go to some comments here. Everyone is against Canelo, says Iceman, Turkey, Al Sheikh, Daniel Canahan, Victor Conte, Max Kellerman, Ward, Rev, Judges, etc. Yeah, but I think that's necessary, honestly. As silly as I think this fight is, I think that's necessary. You got to make it somewhat even. We've seen in recent times when the great little guy goes up in weight, it doesn't really end well. Rigondeaux got stopped by Lomachenko, wasn't even competitive. He quit. Mikey Garcia didn't win any rounds against Errol Spence. So I think they got to try to make this one a little more competitive. I think Canelo will play his part too. I think he'll play around a little bit until he doesn't. But yeah, I think in any world, it makes sense that Canelo, hurts Crawford. I don't know if he stops him, but I've seen Crawford get hurt against Gamboa, against the Mean Machine. So logic says that this shouldn't be a close fight, but we'll see. That's the beauty of boxing. What if Canelo has an Errol Spence moment, a Sergio Martinez moment? Who knows? Anything can happen in boxing. But all I know is these guys are getting paid. We get to watch it for free, quote unquote, as I said. So I'm not complaining about it. And yeah, it should be a good night of boxing. Anytime Canelo fights is a big deal. All the headlines is going to be all Canelo, ESPN, all the newspapers, all the sports outlets. It's going to be all about Canelo, and that's a great thing about this. 150 million. He's going to end up as one of the highest paid athletes of the year once again, continuing to make history at, what is he now, 34, 35 years old. I think the end of his road is near, I think, and it's great for him to be able to, still get these huge paydays because, there's not many opponents out there anymore, man, who can generate a lot of interest and money like this. And you got to sell it, man. Undisputed versus undisputed. They sold as a Charlo fight. We saw how that turned out. Hopefully Crawford doesn't go out there and do the same thing.
Yeah, I gotta give props to Crawford, Gio, just for that all that confidence that he's showing, because he's making his fan base believe. He's, like you said, you mentioned Errol Spence Jr. earlier. We saw that moment, where Errol Spence kind of thanked Crawford before the fight, and then that walk to the ring. I almost felt like it was over. I almost felt like that twitch in his eye was no longer there. Like he was just going there to try to compete. But we saw what happened. So I'm thoroughly impressed that Crawford is keeping that poker face going. He's making his believers believe. So if he can translate that to some success in the ring, I would enjoy it a lot. I would like to see some competitiveness, but again, there's weight classes for a reason. Gio, the last little guy that obliterated a big guy that I can think of is Manny Pacquiao when he just destroyed Oscar de la Hoya. A lot of people are saying that Canelo has slipped a little. I don't think he slipped the way that Oscar has slipped in that fight. Obviously, a dehydrated De La Hoya, but way past his prime, and a very young Manny Pacquiao. Terrence Crawford is 37. I don't see him, summoning that kind of performance the way that Manny did against De La Hoya. So I don't see that happening, but we'll see if he can, chest his way into, hurting Canelo. Obviously, Canelo, one of the best chins in boxing. People are saying that, Crawford can hurt him. I would be very shocked. And again, honestly, I would welcome that shockness because I want to see something I've never seen before. I know that Crawford, his backers are saying that he's never been dropped. We've seen him get dropped, but not officially. I would like to see something new. I would like to see how he responds if Canelo drops him. So I want to see some different layers, man. Again, a lot of experts, a lot of people feel like they know what's going to happen. I would like to see something different. So we'll see what happens. Again, I agree with you, man. It's a free fight, Netflix. Let's just enjoy it, man.
Crawford's gonna get hurt. That's all I know. I don't think there's a need for all this breakdown and all this analysis. Like, it is what it is. But wait, I have to talk about it because obviously we have the show. So I'll try to pretend like it's gonna be exciting. But I think we all kind of know what's supposed to happen. Let's not forget, Bud has never been in this spot before. You know, he's 37 years old. That fight versus Errol was supposed to be his coming out party, right? When he was 35 already. I feel like he wasted a lot of time not taking tough fights in his career. And even that event was kind of a dud. It didn't really sell. So I'm sure him arriving in Vegas, listening to the fans, I'm sure during the weigh-in he's gonna be shaking a little bit, and on fight night for sure. And people don't take that into account. Like, people just think that, you know, guys go out there and freeze against Canelo for whatever reason. Like, these guys have never been in that spot before, you know. So it's gonna be a mental battle too. And yeah, I don't think this fight should be too competitive, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see on fight night. Let's go to some comments here because we did have some people asking about Inoue and Akhmadaliev, MJ. We did have someone mention Oscar Valdez too. He fought last week, and we can talk a little bit about that stuff. But let's go to some comments real quick. Salute, fellas. It's Boxing Kangaroo. Where you been, mate? Where you been, man? We miss you. Let's see. I keep going back to the old adage of weight divisions for a reason. He's just not any 168 pounder. Yeah, I don't think it's realistic to go from 147, then go fight one fight at 54 and struggle. Probably lost that fight, and then try to challenge one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world, 2 weight classes above that. It's not realistic, but hey, Chris has to make it exciting. I think he's a lot more excited than me. But a lot of it is just media stuff. Turkey's trying to sell some tickets. Not necessarily pay-per-views because you can watch it on Netflix, but you still got to sell it. Let's see. Butt snacking and and fishy gloves. What? Butt snack. All right, what else do we have? Crawford is going to look good for the first 4 to 5 rounds, and then legs will start fatigue. Canelo is going to realize that and start to walk him down. My prediction is 9th round stoppage by Canelo, says Riding with Jesus. I'm not opposed to that, man. I don't disagree with that. Crawford is going to be a lot slower. He basically had to put up 20 pounds for this fight. So, like I said, it's not realistic, but hey, I guess we got to make it a little realistic for the sake of the show and the sake of boxing. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Some predictions. Let me see. Crawford beating Canelo by first round KO, says Maton. Damn, put like $10 on that. Special fighters do special things. Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr., Sugar Ray Leonard jumped 2 weight classes and won, says Leandre. He's a believer.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Crawford can pull up an upset, Joe, he definitely deserves his flowers. Definitely deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of American greats. Again, he's fighting a much tougher assignment than Floyd Mayweather did, and I hold Floyd up there, in my opinion, amongst the very best. You know, fighter and business person. So again, if Terrence is able to win this one, Gio, you know, and walking away with 50 million, dude, I want to see he rivals Mayweather on both those aspects. Again, you know, it's not easy to get $1 million in this game, especially with everything that's going on. To walk away with 50 million, and if he's able to do an upset, again, I gave him only 35% chance, but
official predictions, man. Chris. Official predictions.
I'm gonna say Canelo, of course, and I want to see if he can knock him out. I feel like he should be able to. If he did that to Khan, should be able to. But I'm gonna say Canelo decision.
Yeah, I think so. Think so too. I don't think Bud would be able to take Canelo's body punches. I don't think he would be able to take many punches. So I think he'll go into a show and be happy to go 12. Um, but yeah, it'd be cool to see a stoppage. We haven't seen one from Canelo in a while. You know, he's finally fighting a guy who's his size, you know, as far as like height and weight. You know, obviously he's a lot more used to fighting bigger guys, getting hit versus bigger guys, sparring versus bigger guys, even up to heavyweights. Whereas Bud is used to, you know, fighting smaller guys, fighting guys around his weight. We saw him struggle when he finally went up to 154. Um, so yeah, this makes it intriguing. But yeah, I think Canelo should be able to hurt him. But I think that might hurt the entertainment factor. You know, if he's able to hurt Crawford and Crawford goes into Charlo mode, I think that would make it a little less entertaining for us. You know, but yeah, hopefully it's a good fight. You know, they've been trying to sell this fight forever. Turkey's putting a lot of money and effort into this, so hopefully it turns out to be a good event. Hopefully the undercard delivers. Mostly looking forward to that Adams versus Boachuk rematch. I think it's going to be a great fight. You know, this is a big one. Hottest division in boxing, 154 pounds. You got Murtasaliev there. You got Fundora there. You got Virgil Ortiz Jr. there. You got Boots now, who's at 154 too, who was sparring with Canelo. You have Keith Thurman, who's going to fight Fundora. You know, and can't forget Xander Zayas. He now has a belt. So, you know, whoever wins out of Boachuk and Adams, they're going to get a big opportunity. So that's a big fight. It's a very meaningful fight. I'm looking forward to it. Probably even more than the main event. And of course, we'll be rooting for our boy Adams, friend of the show. He's been friend of the show for a long time. Same with his trainer, Trevor. So yeah, we wish him the best. And yeah, hopefully it's a good, exciting night of boxing. Ya hacía falta, Chris. Honestly, we haven't had a ton of boxing in August to kind of slow down a little bit. You know, we had to take that Valdez homecoming fight last Friday. It was cool. It was entertaining, but we want to see some world championship level boxing. Guys mentioned Inoue and Akhmadaliev on this. Not to move on, we'll revisit the Canelo topic, but here you have it. It says it's going to be streamed on ESPN, broadcast on ESPN. So yeah, check the listings. That's supposed to be 9:14. We got to check the time on that though. We got to check the time on that. But yeah, we got to get into that too, Chris. Last words on Canelo Crawford, and then we can move on. We could talk a little bit about this, and then we could talk Inoue, MJ, Murajan Akhmadaliev.
Yeah, no, just to piggyback off of Boxing Kangaroo. Again, we have to appreciate these two guys. They've done everything for the sport. You know, throughout their entire careers. We're not gonna have them forever. Again, you said it, Joe. This is the event of the year. You know, the face of boxing. You know, the tios, the tias, the primos, the primas. Everybody's gonna get together. You know, just to watch this fight. You know, anybody that Canelo fights, people are gonna tune in to see what he does next. So again, this is uh, gonna be a competitive fight until it's not. So again, can't wait to see that this Saturday. And yeah, man, just enjoy the fight.
Yeah, and there you have it. Yeah, it's been a topic, definitely a topic of discussion this whole year. It seems like sometimes it felt like the fight was off. Sometimes it felt like the fight was back on. Um, it's happening. It's happening. So we'll see. We gave our official predictions. We're going Canelo decision. We'll see if he can hurt Terrence Crawford, who has been fighting once a year. You know, I don't know if that's going to hurt him or help him, but he's been fighting once a year basically for the last 5-6 years. And like I said, if this is it for him, you know, he doesn't seem interested in fighting Murtasaliev, doesn't seem interested in fighting Ortiz, doesn't seem interested in fighting Ennis. So if this is it for him, you know, it's a great way to go out, man. Get that money. Payday. Payday.
I feel like I'm gonna like kick myself in the head, Gio, because anytime we know that Canelo has fought this a smaller guy, Amir Khan, Josecito Lopez, any of those guys, he knocks him out. So I'm just gonna give Bud Crawford a little bit of respect on this one.
Let's go to some last comments here. Iceman says, didn't Adams beat Boachuk already? Yeah, he knocked him out in 2021. Boychuk was 18-0, 18 KOs at the time, undefeated. But Adams put them paws on Boychuk and knocked him out. Vicious left hook. So yeah, this is the rematch 4 years later. Canelo must dominate the ring, says Blitzbane. The boxing kangaroo says, in my opinion, I'm just happy we get to see 2 pound for pound guys fighting, because when Canelo and Bud retire, we are going to miss them, he says. Impossible. Canelo will lose. It can't go to a decision, says Blitzbane. Canelo will lose. And yeah, I think for the first time, people are actually worried that Canelo will get done wrong in a decision, I feel like, because of, it seems like everyone is against him. But we'll see. I think he's going to have to just land something quick in that fight to make Crawford retrieve. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Some comments on the Inoue fight. How do you guys think Canelo gets past Bud's jab? Does he just use the high guard, overpower him, and throw those powerful hooks and break Bud down? Chris, how do you think he'll get past the jab?
I think obviously he's going to employ his own, but obviously Buzz is longer. I feel Buzz's jab is a little bit more disciplined, but I think eventually that power would just be too much. Even though Bud is putting on that weight and he's putting on muscle, it's still, you're still just a body in front of that, that bull that is Canelo. So I think Canelo's going to hit, the arms. He's going to do what he did to Callum Smith, and I think he's going to resort to that. I don't think at first he feels like he has to, but I think eventually he'll see that he's going to have to break Bud down with power. So I feel like, again, Bud is going to do a very great job, and it's going to take Canelo a bit of time, but Canelo has more than enough power to hurt him to the arms.
How does he get past that jab? The same way he got past Lada's jab, Triple G's jab, Kovalev's jab, you name them, Daniel Jacobs, Caleb Plant. I think the same way. I think Canelo has seen every style. The only difference is now he's fighting a quote-unquote smaller guy. So, yeah. And, Canelo probably has the best defense in boxing, too. I don't know why people overlook that fact. He doesn't get hit much. Great head movement, great waist movement, great at blocking punches. So, yeah, I don't think that jab is going to be too much of a challenge, and Canelo will know how to counter that. So I think that's going back to the power thing that you mentioned, Chris. I don't think Canelo will be too worried, knowing that he's the more powerful guy, and knowing that if Canelo is able to counter that jab, he's probably going to be in trouble. The only guy who had to have success recently against Canelo was Bivol, and Bivol threw a million jabs, a million straights, a lot of punches. Even if most of them were on the gloves, at least he kept Canelo busy, on defense, and Canelo wasn't able to tee off. I don't see Crawford throwing as many punches, especially adding about 20 pounds to his body. I don't think he'll be able to handle that volume of punching that Bivol was able to do. Maton says Triple G jab was way better than Crawford's any day of the week. Yeah, a much stronger jab, a much stiffer jab, a more consistent jab. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. One thing that I will say, that Buzz jab is going to bring him a lot of success early on. I feel like up until like the 5th, 6th round, until Canelo starts to break him down. Again, these smaller guys, they have some tangibles that some of the heavier dudes don't, but eventually just that big wave just smothers you and just drowns you. And I feel that's what Canelo's going to do. But Bud is crafty enough to I feel, make it to the 12th round.
He says Canelo definitely has great head movement, but Lara landed 1-2 at will. Yeah, that's not real. Don't lie to us, Leandre. Bivol's jab was a problem, and so was Floyd's. Buzz jab is much better than some of those names like Jacobs. I don't know, man. We're talking about 6-footers against Canelo. Crawford is not a 6-footer. He's not 200 pounds, so yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for Crawford. I think a lot of people will see it on fight night. I think a lot of people are hyping it up. And like I said, in my opinion, I think it's a fantasy fight, and I think that's probably, unfortunately, what we're gonna see on fight night. A Loma Regal type of fight. Spence Garcia Mikey Garcia type of fight. Hopefully we don't, but yeah, I think if logic serves us correct and history, has taught us this, that usually the smaller man isn't able to compete at full capacity against the bigger guy.
I'm hoping we don't get a Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux again, but there's more weight, there's more pounds difference as you get in those higher divisions. But I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not, Gio.
But has reach, he says. Yeah, he doesn't have the weight though. He doesn't have the weight. It's a lot of factors. You can pick and point. But now one says buying Hispanic. What do you say? I don't know what he's saying, but I think he's trying to say we're biased. We'll see on fight night. I don't know. I'm just trying to be logical here.
I'm a Bud fan. I want Bud to be competitive. I want him to shock because I want to see something I haven't seen, and I feel like he has that dog in him. But even somebody that has that dog in him, there's a limit, man. There's a limit to how much your chin can take. Again, these guys are human too. They're fighters, but they're human. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious that when Bud does test Canelo's chin, that beard. I feel like Canelo has one of the best chins, and he should absorb it well. But we'll see. Again, there's weight classes for a difference, and even though Bud is putting on a little bit of muscle, it's Canelo has had this muscle for 10+ years. So we'll see, man. Not the same muscle.
Nothing wrong with being biased, says Leandre. Yeah, I agree. You can be biased if you want. It's all good. It's just opinions. I got Canelo by UD, says boxing kangaroo. Difference was G had a great timing and power jab. Yeah, Triple G had one of the best jabs I've seen. And the jab is not even Crawford's strongest punch, so I'm not sure why that was brought up. But yeah, I personally don't think it'll be a problem. But that's the intriguing part. I think we'll get to see it on fight night, and it's only a few days away. So yeah, it's gonna be good. They're definitely hyping it up. Hopefully the people go out there and support it and put boxing up there at least for this weekend. It's a big weekend, so yeah, that should be good. I'm pulling for Canelo. Is just too much against him, says Iceman.
Yeah, no. Again, Canelo has everything to lose, man. I know that these boxing heads, that the fighters, a lot of them are favoring Crawford. I know a lot of them do believe that he's special, and I do think he's special. But when you're going against someone that's a little bit bigger than you naturally, not height wise like we've mentioned, but just muscle wise, yeah, that's just as special. It doesn't go well for you. So again, even the Sugar Ray Robinsons, when they went up against Archie Moore, he was the very best. He fell short. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens. Again, we want to see a competitive fight. So I want to believe Bud is going to make it competitive, man. I don't want to see an Amir Khan. Again, I want to see him last the distance and, get our money's worth, even though it's free.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Naoya Inoue, another pound for pound king, going up against MJ. This should be an intriguing fight, Chris. We have interviews with Joel Diaz. You've spoken to him many times. He believes that MJ has a better chance than our guy Ramon Cardenas because he's a little bigger. He's a southpaw. He has that amateur experience. But yeah, the odds are against him as well. Uphill battle. It's going to be in Japan. It says 4 a.m. Eastern time. All right. It's supposed to be the 14th, Sunday the 14th. And yeah, they're saying ESPN's gonna broadcast it, but we gotta double check that. But yeah, this is gonna be a good fight, Chris. Akhmadaliev, I really like him. I'm surprised that he hasn't done more, honestly. I believe he destroyed Danny Roman, right? That's how he kind of came up to the scene, and then he lost his belts to Maxayo, I believe, in a split, and Inoue just wiped out that whole division, and now he gets a chance. I like it for Inoue. He's staying busy, and MJ is a very good opponent. But you know, I'm gonna just say I think Inoue wins. Surprisingly, I think it might be a decision though. Surprisingly.
Interesting. Yeah, of course, we got to give props to the monster. Yeah, in a way, one of the most impressive years, and obviously fought our boy on Ramon Cardenas. Got him in the eighth round, but a great spirited effort from Ramon, and now he's fighting his stablemate in MJ. I think MJ looked great. When he defeated Roman. I think if he's able to turn back the time and give us a vintage performance, he can surprise us again. You mentioned it, Gio, that amateur pedigree. When I saw him against that fight against Ramon, I thought he looked exceptional. I hadn't seen such a technical fighter in a while, and I was like, whoa, who's gonna beat this guy? This guy looks like a machine, a small machine at that, super bantamweight limit. But you know, obviously, I feel like he's a little bit past his prime, but he still has enough to shock. If he's able to reverse that time and he's able to have a vintage performance, I think that amateur pedigree can catch Naoya Inoue, especially because Inoue is just moving up and up divisions. He's naturally a smaller guy. He's filling into this super bantamweight division. He's got belts, but yeah, again, there's always a limit. There's always a limit, and it's about not overdoing it the way Canelo kind of did it with Bivol. So we'll see. Again, I think it's a very competitive fight. MJ has all the motivation in the world. It's a second look for Camp, Joel Diaz and Antonio Diaz. So they don't want to get.
Keep it moving, Chris. Let's keep it moving.
So yeah, man. I think I'm gonna say. I got a bias here, man.
You can save it, Chris, because you're taking too long. All right, let's go to some comments here. I misspoke. He lost to Tapales. Sorry, I said Maxayo. I was thinking about the wrong division. But yeah, MJ lost to Maxayo. As you see, he defeated Roman. Beat Ronnie Rios. Lost a split versus Tapales. That was kind of shocking. But hey, at the end of the day, he still got the opportunity. He's 14-1 now, 11 KOs. 30 years old. He's in his prime, so this should be an exciting challenge for Inoue, who's 30-0, 27 KOs. He's 32 years old. Man, and what can you say about this guy? There's a reason why he's regarded as number 1, number 2, or number 3 pound for pound in the world, because this guy has been destroying everyone. His last fight out, he actually got knocked down against Ramon Cardenas in round 2. Took him 8 rounds to solve that puzzle. You see the Luis Neri one was a good win. He won that by TKO. Tapales won that by KO. Fulton won that by KO. And pretty much won most of his fights by KO. I got Inoue winning, but like I said, I believe decision. I think MJ was tricky enough and big enough physically to go 12.
I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this one, Gio, because this is gonna be the second time I go against Inoue. I'm gonna go MJ by knockout. I'm gonna say that he finds a way with his amateur pedigree to get a nice shot the way Ramon did, but I think he's gonna learn from Ramon, and I think he's gonna finish him off. I know it's a homer. I'll probably be wrong. Obviously, Inoue's a monster for a reason, but I'm gonna say MJ wins this one by TKO, and it's gonna be the shocker of the weekend.
Damn, Chris getting held to the fire, says Boxing Kangaroo. Iceman says I'm being harsh. I'm being rough on Chris. Who else? Let me see. What other comments do we have here? Let's see. Someone said Inoue wins easily. Excited for this one. The monster in 6 or 7. Can't wait to watch Inoue fight again, says Iceman. Blitzbane says Inoue has home advantage. Good work, boy, says Ivan. Shout out to Ivan Romero. Inoue got gears. What else? What else do we have here? This is wishful thinking, says Blitzbane. Stumbling and fumbling, says Big Bro. Chris, come on, put that pipe down.
I got a little bit of bias, but hear my logic out, man.
A lot of bias. Be honest, Chris. A lot of bias.
a lot of bias, but Inoue's been, I don't know, there's been some openings, man. He's been leaving openings as he's gone up these divisions. So again, I'm gonna roll the dice with this one, man. And I'm gonna say that MJ's gonna be ready. He's a strong guy. And I feel like if he touches Inoue right on the chin, right on the money, the way Ramon did, I think he learns from Ramon and he puts him away. But not gonna be easy. Not against the monster. The monster can do the same thing. So again, if MJ fights to the caliber of his opponents, and if he ups his game for this match and he does something special, he will win. But if he fights the way he fought, Tapales, it's not gonna be good for him.
There's only one pick, and it's Inoue, says Big Bro. Yeah, it's a dangerous fight for Inoue. Like, don't get me wrong. I just feel like he's been able to adapt to everyone's style, and MJ's gonna have to catch him and catch him good. You can't let Inoue survive because he will adapt. He will come back. But I mean, this is a dangerous fight, and don't get it twisted. MJ's a strong fighter, as I said. He has that amateur pedigree. He's a southpaw. He can punch. He can box. So let's see if he can take that Inoue punch, because Inoue can punch too. He could do all the things I mentioned as well. So hey, you got to worry about Inoue a little bit as he continues to go up in these weight classes. He's been getting dropped. He got dropped against Eddie. He got dropped against Cardenas. So, it's a possibility. It's not a probability, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. I would give, obviously, like, being honest, I think it's a 60-40 fight in favor of Inoue, but I feel like if MJ can lock in with that 40%, it's enough to get a shot that can change the fight. So, again, we'll see. Again, it's a tough fight, tough assignment. One of the toughest assignments is going up against the monster, especially in Japan.
I'm getting Chris' face tattooed on my back if MJ wins.
I'm gonna hold down to that.
The boxing kangaroo. Full-size portrait too. You don't want that face on your back, boxing kangaroo. Come on, man.
If MJ wins, I say you get that MJ face right there on that box tray. Get that one.
Look at that man right there. Hey, Chris, come on, man. Our boy Joel Diaz will still give you interviews if you say no way. Come on, man. Be realistic. He's a good guy, man.
I said it's 60-40 for Inoue, but I'm
You're rolling with the 40. You're rolling with the 40. Hey.
I'm rolling with the 40, man. Only with the 40.
And you said Crawford, Canelo, what was the percentage? 65-35?
35, yeah.
All right. I'm saying more like 90-10. Because anything can happen in boxing. An injury can happen. Canelo slips and breaks his knee or something. Things can happen. So I'm giving it 10%. I'm being nice. Now I want MJ to win, says Iceman.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Kangaroo, we got that box rec image of MJ, man. I'll spot you on the tattoo. I'll send you a little your way if MJ wins the titles, man.
Hey, shout out to Triple G who got mentioned on this podcast, man. I mean, we haven't heard that name in a long time.
For real. And that Triple G jab was a thing of beauty, man. That's a power jab, man. That's a power jab. Bud's got a good jab. He's got a good jab. It worked on Arrow. I don't see it working on Canelo.
Hey, what do we think about Oscar Valdez's comeback in Nogales, Sonora? I did tune in. I thought Valdez looked a little old, man. Thought he looked a little slow. Power wasn't there. They're saying he had an injury, right, on his shoulder before the fight. They got to take care of that after now. But yeah, I don't know. I think crazy enough, I think the end might be close for Valdez, who went back to Manny Robles too. I thought maybe that was gonna motivate him a little bit more too, but I don't know if I was too convinced by Valdez. He got a convincing win according to the judges at the end of the day, but I don't know. I'm a little worried if he challenges one of the top dogs again.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was fighting, so I saw the highlights back on replay. But yeah, I also didn't. I feel like his time at the very, very top, or competing at the very, very top, I feel like it's just slipped. He'll still be competitive with some of those contenders, with some of those guys coming up, but I feel like it's his time at the top or competing near the top is done. There's no shame in that. I feel like he's given everything to the sport. He's lost, he's come back, he's won. He's shown that he can, come back and make another run. But I feel like this time it's a little too late. Again, he's there to to prove us wrong, but I just felt that those reflexes are have slipped just a little bit, Gio.
I heard he looked terrible, says Big Bro. Robles picking Crawford. Interesting. All right, let's see, what else do we have? I watched the Valdez fight. It was a lot closer than the scorecards read. I 100% agree with that. I think the ESPN broadcast, they had it closer too. At the end of the day, the scorecards were wide. Let's see if it shows here. It doesn't show it here, but yeah, they were wide at the end of the day. But honestly, if it would have been a draw, I would have believed it. Honestly, he didn't look that great. It was a toe-to-toe type of battle. Valdez was getting hit a lot. His face had a lot of marks at the end of that fight. But yeah, I think he landed the better punches. I think he deserved to win. But yeah, I agree that it was 100% a lot closer than what the scorecards read. The Boxing Kangaroo says Valdez is a warrior, but age is catching up, no doubt. 34 years old now, Valdez. He's been through wars, been stopped recently against Navarrete. Came back and stopped Leon Wilson, which was a very good win. Shout out to the Aussie Wilson. Tough guy. He almost stopped Navarrete, if you guys remember that fight. So that was a very good comeback win by Valdez. But this one against an opponent who was 16-3, Richard Medina, probably should have done better. But yeah, I think he's got a few fights left in on Valdez, and they're going to be exciting fights. He's always going to come to fight, but you just got to wonder how much longer he can continue to take punishment and fight at the highest levels. It didn't look too good, last weekend.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Kangaroo. I think Valdez has nothing left to show us. I mean, he's left it all in that square circle. He's a warrior, just like the Barreras and the Morales before him. I know he admires and looked up to them, and so he wanted to emulate some of that in his fights. Yeah, I don't think we ever got a bad fight from him. Again, age catches up to everybody. I wouldn't like to see him become like a Yorkis Gamboa, that his reflexes leave him with age. So I like to see Valdez enjoy his money, man. Again, he's left us nothing but good memories in that boxing squared circle.
Yeah, and I think that's all I got, Chris. Let me see if that poll has changed at all. Let me see. Looks pretty similar to me. Pretty much the same. 1,500 votes, 71% going with Canelo. Rewinding back to that Canelo topic. A lot of people riding with Canelo. Hopefully it's a good event, man. Like I said, hopefully it's a good event. You see the undercard there. Couple decent names on there. I'm excited for that Boachuk Adams rematch. And yeah, I'll be tuned in for sure. Somebody said they're gonna steal the fight even if they have Netflix. Dang, they that's real boycotting right there.
Yeah, for real. To me, final thoughts, Gio. I believe in Terrence Crawford. I believe that he can make it competitive. I think he is special. I think that he can, show us stuff that people outside of Bebold, outside of Floyd Mayweather. I feel like he could do something there. I'm not saying he's gonna win, but I want to believe that he's special enough to show us something else. Whether it's hitting Canelo on the chin and doing something again. Great jab. I don't think he's got enough power to have Canelo off of him, but I think his ring IQ and his switch hitter, having that and his skill set, I think it could pose Canelo problems. So I want to see something exciting up until it's not. Up until we find out that Canelo is just bigger and stronger. So I do believe in Terrence Crawford. I do believe that he can make it competitive up until the 9th or 10th.
Watch the Netflix stream lag again, says Big Bro. Yeah, that's our biggest fear, I think, right now. Hopefully it works, man. Hopefully it works. If Bud wins, does it hurt his legacy in your opinion? 1,000%. I think if Crawford is able to defeat Canelo, might be time to retire. I feel like I've been saying this for the past 2 years. Canelo, obviously, he has a ton of fights, close to 70 professional fights. His body has, taken its toll. taking some wear and tear. We've seen him recently, um, wearing that knee sleeve, knee brace. He got some procedures done on one of his hands recently before that John Ryder fight. So, injuries will be there, and it's a part of the game. Age, obviously, no one beats father time. So, yeah, I think if he loses this fight, fight one last fight in Mexico and then live happily ever after.
Yeah, I agree. I think it hurts Canelo's legacy because this is a smaller guy that shouldn't be beating you, especially after you beat all these other bigger guys. So I do believe so. Obviously there's this, a lot of people's opinions that Canelo's already the greatest Mexican fighter, and he's got a good case for it. Obviously, there's the Julio Cesar Chavez, there's the Salvador Sanchez, and there's all these other legends. But I feel like this one, if Bud were to, somehow beat Canelo, I feel like that definitely kind of, puts a thorn in that. And I don't think Canelo can make a case for that if he loses to a smaller guy. So definitely can hurt his legacy for sure.
People disagree with us. Canelo's legacy is already cemented, says Maton. Canelo's like Zapata. He will die fighting, says Blissbane. I don't think it does because it will mean he's past his prime with plenty of recent injuries and surgeries and almost 70 fights. Yeah, I think it hurts him as far as being the Mexican GOAT. To me, he already surpassed what any other Mexican champion in history has done, including Julio Cesar Chavez. He's taking tougher fights. He's accomplished more. I think he's a better fighter overall. Obviously the nostalgia, will never allow, especially older Mexicans to say that. But what Canelo has done is different, and you add all the money to that, not like, people are using money as a measure of success in boxing in the ring, but just his being super popular, being the face of boxing for 10 plus years. I think that counts toward his legacy as well. But on the other hand, if Crawford loses, I don't think this hurts his legacy at all. Just like Mikey Garcia, going up a couple weight classes, dare to be great, and you get beat by the bigger, better guy. I don't think it hurts him at all. And you guys probably hear it in my voice and my tone. I'm not a Crawford guy, but you got to be real. I don't think this hurts his legacy at all, unless he gets like slept like Khan, But I'm not sure I see that happening either.
Yeah, for me, if Canelo beats Crawford, it probably just knocks him out of the, top 5 pound for pound. That's what happened when Canelo went up against Bebold. It kind of knocked him, down that pound for pound. But I agree. I think he doesn't lose anything. Crawford does the way Canelo didn't lose anything losing to Bebold. He was a bigger guy, that just boxed him, and there's no shame in losing. Trying to chase greatness. So yeah, I completely agree with that, Gio.
Last thing, like I said, we kind of mentioned Turkey, and Crawford is his guy. I don't think he'll have much of an influence, simply because it's Crawford, right? Crawford is not really a guy who sells tickets, sells pay-per-view, so um, I don't think Turkey will be too involved, especially since Crawford doesn't really seem interested in fighting other big names. Um, Not sure there are many big fights out there for Crawford, money wise at least, and for Canelo, you can still sell many fights. Shiraz is also Turkey's guy. That's a possible fight that can happen if Canelo wins. Obviously the Benavidez fight is still an option. So there's big fights that can be made. Christian and Billy probably not as big, but he's on the undercard. We kind of know how that goes. So yeah, Canelo, I think he still has 3 to 4 big fights left in him, and yeah, that's the reason why I don't think they'll let him, get the short end of the stick in a decision like this against a guy like Crawford, who doesn't really sell, not really popular, not really known in the mainstream. Most people are gonna get to know him, because of this fight at 36, 37 years old. So I don't think there'll be any foul play, but hey, we'll be back here next week on Tuesday to break it all down, to talk about it, and see how it all went down, see who was right, see who was wrong, and hopefully you guys can make it to the live next Tuesday.
Yeah, for me, Gio, depending on how this fight turns out, the way the way one of these guys wins, it's gonna decide whether we get that Benavidez call or if we never hear Benavidez names again. So again, I still want to think that Benavidez has a stake in this Canelo sweepstakes. It's the fight that makes the most sense. But we'll see what happens come Saturday.
Last comment here. Man, they push Bud as Super Bud. Hard to say Bud will lose, says Iceman. Man, he doesn't trust it. He doesn't trust it. Let's see. We'll see, man. Hell yeah, it does. Definitely. With all these former fighters picking Crawford, it definitely hurts his legacy, says Maton. Exactly. Bud don't sell, no promotion, make money with him, and he's still being pushed, says Iceman. Later, Boxing Kangaroo. Thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. Benavidez' boat has sailed, says Maton. I believe so too, especially with him being at 175 now. Yeah, that fight is probably long gone. Not sure he can go back down to 68. Doing that at 75, he'll have that much more of a weight advantage, as if he didn't already. Benavidez a 200-pounder, says Big Bro. That fight is not happening. Yeah, I don't think so. But hey, there's interesting names still. There's interesting names for Canelo. So.
Yeah, that guy's have a point. Does Benavidez have a title at 175?
I think he has one of the junior belts.
Oh, okay.
When he beat Morel.
That's
I think he got upgraded, right? I think he got upgraded. Maybe, I don't know. There's so many email championships nowadays. He might have gotten upgraded. Yeah.
He needs a belt to even entice Canelo, even entice him to be like, this is the thing that you never got. Let's see if you get it from me. That's the only way. That's the only way that boat comes back, in my opinion.
All right, fellas. Thanks for tuning in. We'll leave you guys with this trailer there on Netflix. Get excited. An email belt, says Maton. September 13th, the Mexican Independence Weekend. Face of Boxing, Canelo Alvarez against Terrence Bud Crawford. 2 undefeated guys. 2 one undisputed champion, 1 former undisputed champion. And, well, not former. He's still undisputed. You can't take that from him. I don't even like that term. But, yeah, hopefully it's a great fight, man. Hopefully you guys tune in next week. Appreciate it. Appreciate Iceman, Big Bro, Maton, Boxing Kangaroo. Who was Leandre, I believe, was in here. Shout out to all you guys, man. We'll be back next week. VMC. Let's go, mates.
Let's go. Vámonos. Shout out to Netflix. They put us on, man. They put us on. Let's go. Vamos.
Bruce. Payday. Payday. These guys are getting paydays. Salute.
150 million.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Pastor Gallo Estrada. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Against the Ropes. Huge shout out to Against the Ropes. Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.